Insult my intelligence? It's on the record now, by user Carly. I'm a veterinary technician and was doing some work in the reception area. We had a man and his pit bull come in. I'm getting them checked in and I ask what the dog's name is. He tells me the dog's name is Gucci. I ask how he spells it because you can never assume anything these days. He rolls his eyes and says, "You don't know how to spell Gucci? Are you an idiot or something?" The thing about veterinary medical records are that they are legal documents. They will exist for a certain number of years at least before they are destroyed. For the better part of a decade, I made the record show he arrived that day with a dog named Gucci since I'm apparently an idiot that can't spell Gucci. Edit. Thank you all for the wonderful stories about your pets. I loved reading them. Shoutouts to the few of you that suggested I should feel deeply ashamed about this and should get fired for it. Neither is gonna happen, but at least my therapist will get the chance to work for her exam fee this week, so congratulations. Coming for a vet technician's mental health is basically shooting fish in a barrel, so don't pat yourselves on the back too hard. Don't want to tell me what that parking ticket is for? Okay. I'll get that ticket thrown out in court, along with jeopardizing any ticket the city wrote on that same form, by user_he_hecko. TLDR, way too long way of saying I got a parking ticket. Wasn't satisfied with an answer to a basic question about the violation. Fought it in court and won, with the judge ruling that every ticket the city had written on that form was suspect. The ticket. This was mid to late 90s in a northern Midwest, mid-sized city. Parking near my apartment near a university was only on-street parking. Bad in the best of times, it got miserable in winter with alternate side parking eliminating half the parking on major streets such as where my apartment was. Failing to find any parking, some nights I would risk it. Sometimes I got a ticket. Sometimes not. But at least I typically knew why I got the ticket, until one morning. I was cited for violation number 27. I had no idea what that was all about. It wasn't an alternate side violation. Not an expired meter issue. Not a loading zone thing. I just didn't know what it was. What did I do wrong? I went by the office to pay the ticket and I asked the clerk, BTW, what is violation number 27? I don't know and don't want to get ticketed for whatever it is again. Her reply set me off, we don't have to tell you. Excuse me? I took my check asterisk out of her hand and picked up my ticket. Asterisk, it was the 90s. I told you it was a long time ago. We used to write out little slips of paper called checks that the recipient could take it to the bank and deposit. Half you kids reading Reddit have probably never written a check. I'm old. Sue me. Now get off my lawn. I asked her who could tell me. She shrugged, maybe the prosecutor's office, she replied. I left, ticket unpaid. I stopped by the prosecutor's office, ticket in hand, to ask. I apologized to the receptionist for such a ridiculous waste of time. I just wanted to know. And she rolled her eyes at me. I got nowhere there. Digging in my heels, doing legal research. For a poor recent college grad I certainly wasn't going to waste my money with a lawyer but was hard-headed enough to want to know what violation number 27 was before I paid it. I resolved to go to the public library asterisk and pull out the law books with the city ordinances and state statutes. Asterisk, library, a physical building with actual printed books where people used to have to go to look up information before everything was online. I'm old. I told you. And stay off my lawn. I settled in, flipped through pages, cross-referenced ordinances and statutes, and found something interesting. Possibly it was very interesting. I checked the court date on the ticket and made up my mind. I would damn well fight City Hall. Court time. I showed up in court. Some paperwork was handed out to those of us who were present. Just before it was to be my turn, the prosecutor graciously offered to let me pay the ticket plus court costs to make this go away. It is a damn parking ticket. I'm already here. Why bother? After waiting my turn, I stepped before the judge. The judge said a few things. The prosecutor said a few things. And then it was my turn. Your Honor, I move to dismiss the ticket based upon a due process violation on the 14th Amendment. I think that prosecutor might have gotten whiplash, her neck snapped so fast. I told my story. I just want to know what violation number 27 is. I looked. It's not in the law books. Not in the city ordinances. I am being charged with something without being told what it is. And the judge smiled a bit, turned to the prosecutor, and said, I've been waiting for someone to bring this up. The prosecutor's jaw dropped. Your Honor, I went on, state statute requires certain elements to be on any citation for it to be valid. Among those things is a citation to statute or ordinance. And there are a couple other issues with the ticket. It does not conform to the statutory requirements for a citation. The judge turned to me and asked if I had the ticket. Yes ma'am, I do. And she asked if I had the paperwork that was handed out when I arrived in court. I did. And then the good judge took a few moments to walk us through that paperwork to show that neither the parking ticket nor the paperwork contained the requisite statutory elements for a citation or summons. Then the judge advised she would take the matter under advisement. The verdict. A few weeks later I got a big manila envelope in the mail with the judge's order. In clearly written legalese she went step by step through my argument, the requirements in statute and ordinance, and the utter failure of the city to write ** a single valid parking ticket on their standard form in many years. Years ago parking enforcement officers actually took a pen and physically wrote in ink on a 3-part pre-printed parking ticket form. Barbaric, I know. They didn't have handheld computers to print them out. This was just a few years after we figured out that banging 2 rocks can make a spark to start a fire. I told you I'm old. And what did I tell you about staying off my lawn? She detailed that the city, to allow their parking enforcement officers to write tickets faster, used their own list of violation numbers. Expired meter is number 1, no parking zone is number 2, that did not correspond to any section numbers of the statute or ordinance. If you didn't have the list you just might not know. And the judge threw out my parking ticket as a due process violation of the 14th Amendment. Oh, and that violation number 27 was parking too close to a handicapped ramp. I didn't see it under the snow. My bad. Didn't matter. I had moved out of town by then. Not only am I not going to fire him, by user Bakateri. This is Willie's story, I was lucky enough to be along for the ride. TLDR at the end. Have you ever worked with someone who you know immediately is really something special? I've had a few opportunities to work with people like this and my first thought is I want to help this person get wherever it is they're going. I worked for a non-profit for a while after retiring from the army. First day on the job, one of my peers on the leadership team pulled me aside and warned me about one of the guys on my team. Jane, you'll have to keep a close eye on Willie. He's low effort, takes a lot of hand-holding, rubs people the wrong way, and honestly we're considering firing him. Me, thanks for the heads up. You never know what you're getting into at a new position, so I appreciate having the info. Fuck, what have I walked into? But then I started working closely with Willie and made some discoveries. Sure, Willie was an introvert, kept to himself and could be a touch socially awkward, but he knew his job inside and out. He managed my department's logistics requirements precisely, we always had what we needed, but never too much excess static stock on hand. He found innovative ways to work with our community partners. He built new initiatives that capitalized on existing resources without incurring additional costs, a very important skill to have in a non-profit. He impressed donors so much that he actually convinced them to contribute significant sums in support of his additional duty department, and he wasn't even part of the fundraising team. Willie was a quiet rock star, and I quickly realized how lucky I was to have him. Despite all this, the rest of the regional leadership team seemed to have it in for him. I found out later what it was that set them off. Willie had made an offhand comment to Jane about a year before I joined. Nothing sexist or bad, just a casual observation about a physical aspect of the office space that Jane interpreted poorly. She shared it with other leaders in the org, they decided that the comment made their teeth itch, and it became a snowball that quickly rolled over Willie's reputation. The comment was relayed to me by a third party a few months after my arrival. I went and talked to Willie about it directly, I wanted to get his take. Our discussion revealed that it was totally innocuous, but misinterpretation had caused a misunderstanding and the damage was done. Rather than asking questions of Willie to clarify, they assumed a bunch of shit and ran with it. The stage was set, and Willie had realized that he didn't have a future at our location. Leadership had made up their minds about him and were actively blocking his options when they learned about any moves he was trying to make. I knew of at least 3 instances where they torpedoed his chances for interviews at other nearby locations in the organization, tripping him before he even got out of the gate. Willie knew if he was going to advance, it was going to be somewhere else. He started looking for new work and he eventually found something at another branch of our organization in a different state. He kept it very quiet, got the interview, and the other region was assessing the different candidates. The only other person in our region who knew about it was me, and that was only because I'd spent months gaining Willie's trust. He knew he could confide in me and I wouldn't shit on him. Around that time, Jane hit me up again about Willie. "Jane, I'm amazed by the changes in Willie since you came on board. You've really done a lot to mentor him and get him up to his full potential." "Me, I have done a lot of work where Willie is concerned. Some of it was helping him with professional development, but most of it has been focused on shifting the leadership team's perspective. He's really not that different from when I arrived, but as you just indicated, your perception of him has definitely changed. I've put a lot of effort into just letting him shine, giving him credit for the good things he does, and staying out of his way. He didn't need micromanagement, he needed room to run. Every time he achieved something I made a point of highlighting his success and the benefit it brought to our organization. The work I did wasn't on him, it was on you." Jane. Back to Willie, I asked if he wanted me to go to bat for him in the hiring process with the other region. He said he'd appreciate the help, so I called the manager at the other location and told her I don't want to lose Willie, but all the reasons why I want him to stay here are the same reasons why you need him there. The problem is, if Willie stays here the organization is going to lose him because they won't promote him. I'd rather have him stay with the organization in a different place than lose his commitment and skills entirely." She hired him. Of course, it was all him, skills, experience, interview, she knew she was getting someone amazing. My recommendation was just icing on the cake, made it easier for her to decide what she already knew. Willie's taste of sweet revenge came when the leadership team had to eat crow as they congratulated him on his move. Willie knew this team of leaders had put a lot of effort into making sure he'd never advance. Some of their congratulations were less than genuine, including Jane's. The cherry on top was that the pay and position at the new job was half a step above mine and the rest of the leadership team. That's right, he moved on, he moved up, and he outranked us all. A most excellent EFFU to the folks who had stood in his way. TLDR, local leadership tries to sink promotion opportunities for one of my team, he ends up outranking all of them. Ada Willie's comment to Jane. "Willie, you can hear people's conversations in other offices because walls only go up to the drop ceiling. Genuinely complaining because he's constantly disturbed by loud conversations when he's on the phone." Jane, "Oh my god, Willie's eavesdropping on all our conversations. Must clutch pearls." My take, Jane never stopped to think that maybe if Willie was intent on eavesdropping, he probably wouldn't have highlighted the sound leakage. Update, neighbor was petty on property limits, by user SoSpuff. This is an update to this post. Surveyor came today to install the new boundary markers. And in a very happy, for us, twist, they were actually stealing more land from us than we were from them, just on the other stretch of our shared limit. Their fence was off by 2 degrees over 17 meters, meaning overall they took over our property by 5.1 square meters. And the back of their shed is too close to the line of the new survey according to zoning regulation. We are laughing. It's hysterical for us that they went to all the trouble of making us pay for a survey over 0.4 square meters, but are going to end up losing part of theirs, maybe have to tear their shed, not sure yet if we're going to be magnanimous on this point and not report them on that, and of course, the dog-proof fencing all around their property. So to all the people saying I was stealing from them, I hope you have enough stones to throw their way too. Edit, I won't comment on this post or justify myself. Forcing someone to live up to their threatening promise, by user disappointed_shrew_. It was January 2022. A new wave of COVID hit, and it devastated the workforce in the major cities here. On average, about half the workforce for any industry was homesick for about a week at the same time. Shelves in supermarkets weren't stocked because there weren't enough workers to keep them full. The number of bus routes were cut in half. The list goes on. At my retail store, all but 2 of us were sick. With 2 people on staff, we couldn't get to everything, so we had to decide what parts of the job we'd neglect. Most of our revenue is from online sales, so we decided to close the store and focus on dispatching online orders. We still had to answer phone calls and emails though, so we were very stressed. This was only happening in the major cities, of course, more rural locations dodged the major disruptions. One day, I got a call from a customer. He placed an online order the day prior, paid for express post, but noticed it hadn't been sent. He called, asked why it hadn't been sent. I looked on his account, and saw he lived in a rural town hours away. This was the conversation. Customer, hi, I placed an order yesterday with express post, why hasn't it been sent yet? Me, very sorry, there's only 2 of us on staff because of COVID and we are doing the best we can to keep up with the online orders. Customer, but I paid for express. Me, yes, and as I explained, there's only 2 of us on staff, we've had to close the store, and there's a lot of orders to pack and we pack them from oldest to newest, we're trying our best. Customer, well, your best isn't good enough. I paid for express, it should have been sent out by now. My best wasn't good enough? What an absolute piece of shit. At this point, I had dealt with enough stress, so I let him have it. Me, paying for express doesn't mean we pack the order faster, it means that once the courier has it, they deliver it to you faster. That extra money you spent doesn't go to me or this company, it goes to the courier. There are orders older than yours, they have priority, they have waited longer than you and will be packed first. Customer, I don't care, you need to ship it today. Me, I can't promise that. Do you have any idea what COVID has done to the workforce here? Customer, no, and I don't care. If you don't ship my order today, I promise I'll never shop with you again. I genuinely laughed out loud at that. Me, I literally could not care less, it's no skin off my nose. At that point, I hung up. For the entree of my revenge, I purposely skipped his order even though I caught up to it. It got sent the next day. The main course though, that was tasty. I blocked his account so he couldn't shop with us again. He promised he wouldn't, so I wanted to make sure he didn't break his promise. He tried to though. He made another account. I recognized the name, and confirmed it was him through the shipping address. I cancelled the order and processed the refund. For revenge's dessert, I did something truly petty. When you process a refund, you reverse the payment made by the debit card. You can put a note in it when you do so the customer knows why that money is reappearing in their bank. The note I put was to help you keep your promise.